In today's episode of Comics and Cosplay, strap on your winged backpack as we dive back in for part 2 of our Captain America the Winter Soldier movie review. So just to remind and warn everyone, this is part 2 of our Captain America Winter Soldier review, in which we will be discussing major plot points and spoilers throughout the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, pause and go back and watch part 1 of our video series, where we only give a basic overview of the movie and my generic thoughts, and then come back and watch this to see all the in-depth analysis of the movie. So in this episode of the review, we're going to work in reverse order. We're going to start off with things I really didn't like about the movie and thought ultimately hindered it from being an amazing movie, and then work our way towards the things I really liked about the movie and thought really made it stand out from the other Marvel films. So first on this list is the villain. I think they made an incredibly poor decision switching from the original disgruntled KGB agent that was in the Brubaker story to this sleeper cell Hydra plotline. I think this was incredibly weak and wasn't as unique or interesting as it potentially could have been. I'm not a big fan of super secret organizations as the villain. I think they're an easy cop-out and allow writers to wash away many problems or not spend the time to make their villains more detailed because they can just say this organization knows all and is able to infiltrate and get everything it wants possibly done. Also, I think having the Winter Soldier be an agent of Hydra rather than a relic of the USSR takes away from his backstory and the whole Cold War Winter Soldier reference. Plus, it also hinders his direct opposition to Captain America as being a tool of the USSR against United States' best weapon and soldier. Now, I understand why Disney did this. They want to make $1 billion off this movie, and you can't do that if you alienate a huge block of the world. However, they could have easily worked around this by just making up a fake country in Eastern Europe and saying that the agents were from there and have been controlling the Winter Soldier since the fall of the USSR. This allows them to have the good depth and character development that was around the original story for the Winter Soldier. Plus, it doesn't make any one particular country feel like they're being signaled out to be the main villain of the United States. And ironically, if they had just stuck with making Russia the main villain, it would have made the movie a lot more timely, seeing as currently the United States and Russia aren't the best of friends right now. So next on my list, and following a similar theme as my previous complaint, is the main plot or goal of Hydra in the movie. So somehow Armin Zola has been turned into an artificial intelligence sometime back in the 1940s, and he's come up with this algorithm to allow them to target all the potentially dangerous people, and then they're going to take big airships and shoot them all at once. It's pretty hokey, and they should have spent a lot more time trying to think of something better than this. And what makes it even worse is that the movie references how back during the Nazi invasion, Hydra realized using pure force wasn't the best means of controlling people. But in the future, their new plan is to use force and shoot those people again. It's just goofy. I don't understand why they didn't think of something better. I think the original revenge plot that Brubaker used was a much better scheme and made more sense, that it was just an ex-KGB agent out to get back at Captain America, and he thought this would be one of the best ways using his old friend. Speaking of the Winter Soldier, he's also on my list of areas where they could have made improvements. I think we don't spend enough time with Bucky learning how the brainwashing works or how he actually became the Winter Soldier enough. I think Brubaker had a great point and realized this when he wrote the story originally, so much so that he dedicated an entire issue of the comic just to how he became the Winter Soldier. Now I understand they couldn't have devoted this much time to it, but we probably should have seen a little bit more. Plus, they probably should have taken from the original comic book run how the brainwashing was never fully completely functional and how the Winter Soldier was always potentially rogue or had the potential to go off book when he did missions in the United States. This would have helped them later on in the final set piece when Captain America is able to convince Bucky to remember his past, so we could see that it was always an unstable process and could be changed at any moment. And then it doesn't have this feeling of it just being instantly washed away just because he saw Captain America one time. Next on my list, and this is more about I don't get it rather than a full-on complaint, is the inclusion of both Black Widow and Agent 13. Now, when I saw the trailers for the movie, I assumed Black Widow was going to be taking on the role of Agent 13, being the moral support and confidant of Captain America during these troubling times. However, when I saw Agent 13 in the movie, I was kind of confused about what role she was going to play exactly. And I think the directors and writers kind of had that same problem too, as she didn't really serve a major function in the movie. I'm wondering if they have future plans for her, or hope we'll develop her somewhere down the line in other movies, so we can see why they introduced this character here and now. So one more thing, before we get on to things I really liked about the movie. Do you guys remember about a year ago when Man of Steel came out and a lot of my fellow comic book movie reviewers had this complaint of the movie? Oh my god, the collateral damage! Superman isn't trying to save anybody. He would never let that many innocent people die. And in Metropolis, a fake city, it's completely destroyed. How is it completely rebuilt in the Daily Planet fine in the very next scene? Well, I wonder how they would feel about the ending of this movie, in which Captain America comes up with the genius idea to shoot down 3 oversized flying helicarriers above the very real and very densely populated city of Washington, D.C. in a blazing inferno. And then in the very next scene, Black Widow's on Capitol Hill giving Senate testimony, as if nothing ever happened. I wonder if they'll be as critical of this movie as they were of that one. So enough trolling of the ultimate Marvel fanboys, and let's get back to talking about the Winter Soldier and things I really enjoyed about it, like the decision to not kill Crossbones at the end of the film. I think this is really smart, and it's about time movie studios realize they shouldn't kill off the best villains at the end of the movies just to have some finality to the movie. I think this hurts them down the line in the sense that they can't go back to the best villains, or that they're having to pick from some of the C and D list cast characters from the main heroes rogues gallery. Plus, the remainder of Crossbones makes me hopeful that we might see some sin in the near future of the Marvel Universe. Next, I really enjoyed that they brought over a lot of Easter eggs and hidden gems from the comic book for people that actually read the Winter Soldier comic book series. Like the fact that Captain America kept busting through windows with his shield all the time. It felt like it was a running joke in the comic book series, so it was nice to see it brought over here to the movie as well. Also, another scene that I really loved was the Peggy and Captain America scene, where he goes to visit his old friend in the nursing home. Now, I don't ultimately think they needed this scene, and the time probably would have been better spent on some of the other issues I addressed in the movie. However, this is an incredibly touching scene in showing us how disconnected and lonely Captain America feels sometimes, as well as how they deal with the issue of Alzheimer's. Clearly the producer or one of the directors has dealt with this in their life, because they really capture what this issue and this disease is like, and what it's like for the people dealing with loved ones that have it as well. I love that they gave Nick Fury a bigger role in this movie, as well as played on the trope of him dying or going into hiding, which he seems to do about every 5 years or so in the comic books. It was great to see that over in the cinematic universe as well. Plus, it gives him the potential to tell some amazing stories as well. Especially imagine a Nick Fury and the Secret Warriors storyline. That would be amazing. And if I was a producer over at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I would take this idea and run with it. Imagine Nick Fury trying to rebuild S.H.I.E.L.D. from the ground up as a more trustworthy organization that he can rely on. I think this could help bring back viewers that they lost over this past season. But all that said, what was up with Nick Fury's final look in the movie? With the hoodie and the Oakley sunglasses? He looked like he was going to be Old Dirty Bastard's replacement at the Wu-Tang reunion, and not the new future great spy in hiding. I'm not too sure about that one, Nick. Also, here are my thoughts about the final scenes that ran during the credits, starting off with the one featuring Bucky in the museum starting to come back to his memories and remember who he was. I'm curious if this is going to go anywhere, or if this is just kind of a red herring to get fanboys all hyped up. I'm curious if they'll actually make him a bigger role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if he'll potentially become Captain America in the future like he did at the end of Civil War. I guess only time will tell. Also, I'm a little uneasy about the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver being under the control of Hydra. That plot line feels a little, But I'm going to give Whedon the benefit of the doubt, since he made Avengers and that was amazing, and clearly he's had these two characters in mind for quite some time, so hopefully he has a plan for them. And also, didn't they seem a little young at the end of that final scene credit to be having their powers manifest? I don't know, maybe it was just me, and maybe next time I'll see it, I might think differently. So here are my final thoughts about the movie as a whole. Now, it might seem like I'm pretty down on the movie in this part of the review, but remember, I saved and heaped all of my praise of the movie mostly in part 1 of the Winter Soldier review. These are only the issues and problems I had with the movie that I thought brought it down from being the best Marvel film ever to being more like in the top 3. But don't get me wrong, this is still an amazing movie and something you should definitely see. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think this is a great movie or the best Marvel film? Did you have problems with any of the issues I brought up in this film? Or was there anything that I missed? Or is this still just the best Marvel film for all of you guys? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, make sure you don't forget to subscribe to any of our future videos, such as our cosplay series and tutorial videos that we post on a weekly basis. Also, follow us on Twitter at Comics and Cosplay, as I post a lot of other cosplay, comic book, and movie news there. Well, as always, I'm your host Ian from Saturday Morning Cosplay, and I'll see you on the con floor.